What's up guys, Mr. SLIN here, and today's video is about some tips and tricks for playing Medic. So as you know, I'm a Medic main. I've been playing this game for like 10 years. I've played Medic at an ESEA invite level for a couple seasons. I also played at a UGC Platinum level for Highlander, and I get this question a lot on my stream from other Medic mains and people who are interested in Medic that ask me, how do I get good at Medic? What are some tips and tricks that you can have for me? And so today I just want to share with you some of the things that I've found to be really helpful when I'm playing Medic. And I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list today. I'm not going to go through every single, piece of advice. I'm probably going to talk for about 10 minutes or so. But I'm going to go over some highlights of some key things, mostly at a beginner or intermediate level. And if you like this kind of video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll make more of these kinds of things in the future. I have tons of tips and tricks to share with you. So today's video, I'm going to walk through some of the initial settings and setup that you're going to want to have as a Medic. Then I'm going to go into some basic fundamentals that you should focus on that are really going to help you improve in your games. And then I'm going to wrap it up with some closing thoughts. But let's get started. So what do I have here on Medic? If you go into your advanced options, the first thing I recommend that you do is you scroll down to the section here called class-specific options, and you'll see 3 of them for Medic. Just check all 3 of these boxes. The first one is that it'll continue healing while you're not holding down left click, which is really useful for just continuing to heal all the time. I highly recommend that you use this setting. There's like no downside to using it. The second one puts a marker over the head of the player that you're healing. It's a small little arrow. I find it to be helpful, but it's not essential. You don't have to have this one, but I recommend just turning it on. And then the third one is for injured teammates automatically calling out. And when your teammates get low on health, it'll automatically call for Medic or put a little cross over their head. And I have mine set at the third tick here. I believe this is about 70%. So somewhere in the 60 to 80% range is good. You want them to be damaged, but you don't want their health to be so low that they're going to die. So you don't want the slider all the way down here towards 10. Actually, higher is a little bit better. So that's the first thing I do. Second thing I recommend is checking your mouse sensitivity. I'm playing on 4.9 inches per 360, and I would consider that to be a high sensitivity. And that would mean that my mouse is very sensitive. I don't have to move my mouse very much to turn. I recommend high sensitivities in general for Medic. Medic is not a class where you're very focused on aiming. The Medigun is extremely forgiving when it comes to aim. So you don't need to have the most accurate aim. It's really important as a Medic to keep your head on a swivel. And that's, constantly turning like this to look for teammates who are hurt and need healing. And it gets really, really tiring if you use a lower sensitivity. A low sensitivity would be about 20 inches per 360. I would say a medium sensitivity is in the 8 to 13 inches per 360 kind of range. And then a high sensitivity is, anywhere between 4 and 6 inches per 360. And I recommend just, use what's comfortable for you. I know a lot of Medics who use medium and low level sensitivities, and they play just fine. But for me personally, I find that high sensitivity works the best for just keeping my head turning around. So that's the basic setup. The next question you want to ask yourself is, when do you want to go Medic? So if I'm hitting tab here, my team has 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 players on it. The other team has 12, and 2 Medics on my team. And I'd say that's about the perfect ratio. You want to have 1 Medic on your team for every 6 to 8 players. I'd say 6 is on the low end, 8 is on the high end. You want to have enough Medics on your team to where you have a lot of people to heal, but you don't have so many Medics on your team that everybody's full health all the time and you're missing out on damage potential. So you actually want your team to have as many fragging classes, damaging classes as possible. But you also need Medics on your team. Medic is the most important class to have on your team. If you don't have at least 1 Medic on your team, you're probably going to lose to the team that has a Medic. And that's because there's not enough health packs on the map. So that makes Medic an essential class. Not only is Medic great for healing out health, but also really important for those buffs that increase your teammates' survivability, and also for those Ubers, which are really great at breaking stalemates, at getting through sticky traps, breaking sentry guns, enemy heavies, that kind of thing. So very important to have at least one medic on your team, and then I highly recommend having, you know, one medic for every 6 to 8 players or so, and that's a pretty good ratio. And you're noticing right now that because we have this good ratio, there's plenty of people for me to heal, whether it's other medics or other players that I have that are right next to me. Looking for an Uber here. I'm Ubering this engineer, which is kind of unusual, but my teammates are in a position to do damage. Unfortunately, he's got his melee out and not really doing a lot of killing. So that's a bit of an unfortunate Uber, but let's talk a little bit about Ubers, because that's actually like kind of an advanced topic, and Ubers are probably the most difficult thing to do in this game, because an Uber has so much potential for doing damage and protecting your teammates, and I'd say it's very difficult to master Ubers. And so I'm going to keep things really easy for you for starters, and then maybe in another video we can get more in depth on Ubers. But I recommend that what you want to think about when you're using an Uber is use it proactively. And don't hold your Ubers for too long, because a lot of medics, what they tend to do is they tend to just hold Uber for too long, and then they kind of waste their potential. And so you kind of want to use them as soon as you get them. Not like as soon as you get them, but pretty close. I kind of walked through some stickies there. I thought there were more people here. But you want to be using them pretty frequently. And that's just good practice too, right? Because it's hard to know when to use an Uber. And so by using more of them, you're going to get more practice. The other thing I'd say about using an Uber is that Ubers are all about proactive damage prevention rather than saving your teammates' lives. So if possible, you want to be predicting where the damage is coming in and then using the Uber to prevent that damage rather than letting your teammates get really, really low and then popping the Uber to save their life. That's not as efficient. And that's because medics heal at a very flat rate of 24 health per second. And I know I'm getting really detailed here, but if you heal at a rate of 24 health per second and you prevent 100 damage with that Uber, you just saved yourself 4 seconds of healing. So a lot of things in this game do about 100 damage, and so if you can prevent 100 damage, you just saved yourself a lot of time. So that's the way I would think about Ubers. Is that guy a spy? That is such a crazy jump. I've never seen that one before. So let's talk about loadout. You know, let's talk about what do you want to be using when you're playing medic. I already talked about Uber a little bit. You don't want that? Okay. So me personally, I'm using the crossbow, the metagun, and the Uber saw. This is a very standard competitive loadout. For your primary weapon, you want to be using the crossbow. At least at the time of making this video, it is easily the most powerful primary weapon. It's not very good for doing damage per second, but it's amazing for burst healing potential. You're not going to be using it that often. I would say you use the crossbow use your crossbow maybe 5% of the time at most. So if you're using your crossbow a lot, you're probably not doing it right. You don't want to be using your crossbow. Oh, that's a spy. Damn. Oh, double spy. You don't want to be using your crossbow that often. You want to mostly be using your secondary, which is ironically your primary. You want to be healing as much as possible with your metagun or your Kritzkrieg. Generally speaking, the metagun is the best choice 95 times out of 100. The Kritzkrieg is good in some unique situations, but what you'll find is that people in this game, they're easy enough to kill. It's not like I need to kill them any faster. They generally die in a couple shots. So having a Kritzkrieg is nice, but being invulnerable is much better, and it's generally going to be useful in all situations. Like being invincible is going to be good in basically every situation, but having Kritzkrieg and getting triple damage is only going to be useful in some situations. Like a Kritzkrieg will have a really difficult time breaking sentry guns, right? Because Kritz doesn't do triple damage against buildings. It's going to have a really difficult time dealing with stickies, right? If a demo man has a sticky trap somewhere, and like having triple damage is not going to get you through that sticky trap. But being invincible will, And being invincible will allow your team to get really aggressive and charge forward and go for those kills. So I just think it's really useful to go for that Uber rather than getting that crits. Vaccinator is something that people use in pubs, but it's not very good at a high level. So if you're just having fun with your friends, then Vaccinator is just fine. But generally speaking, it's not that good. Now, I know there's going to be some people in the comments who are like, but if you play Vaccinator correctly, it's amazing. But generally speaking, it's very difficult to use. Like, you have to be switching damage types all the time, and knowing like precisely which damage type to be using at which moment is not that easy. So, yeah, I don't recommend that. Okay, well, the round's over. All right, so I guess that's good enough for our first video. I talked for like 11 minutes. I think it's pretty good. I didn't actually get into much into the gameplay, but I'll save that for another video. Again, if you like this kinds of videos, I'm more than happy to make more of these in the future. So don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe for more in the future. And I also stream on Twitch, by the way, twitch.tv/MrSlin, spelled the same way as I do on my YouTube channel. So go ahead and check me out there. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you next time. Peace.